Just about 2.5 years ago to the day, I quit my $100,000 base salary sales job to go all in on entrepreneurship, and now we're at $100,000 per month as a business. This is my story. Let's get into it. So before I get into it, we got to back up before that time period to get you a little bit of a better understanding of where I came from, how I got there, and how the experiences that I've encountered have ultimately led to success in entrepreneurship and as a business owner. As most of you probably watching this video, you went to college and you realized that you selected wasn't really the major that you wanted to do at the tail end of college. So when I first joined, I went to Rutgers in New Brunswick. Shout out Rutgers. I was a criminal justice major. And obviously today, I am not a state trooper or a cop. That dream died pretty soon in college. But the biggest thing that I gained from college was really networking, the people that I met, the skills that I learned on how to connect with different people from different backgrounds, really translated into my salesmanship and ultimately my success as a business owner. So college was not a waste of time. It was a big piece of debt that's still being paid off with loans and things like that. I wouldn't be where I am today without the experiences and the things that I encountered in my time at Rutgers, even though it didn't turn out to be my dream profession. How I got into sales was actually during college. I had an internship at a local copier sales company. Think like Xerox's, Konica Minolta's, big office copiers. So when I was working there, I realized that the salespeople there really worked off of relationships. So the clients that they already had, they would just maintain the relationship and renew contracts. So they didn't really generate new business at all. So me coming from a background in sales, my dad was in sales his entire life. My dad was also an entrepreneur. So I kind of understood the ins and outs of business to a small degree. So I went to the business owner there and I was like, hey, do you want me to kind of help generate new sales opportunities? So what I did was I employed or asked two of my buddies in the fraternity, hey man, do you want some extra beer money on the weekends? They said yes. So what we did about 2 to 3 days a week was we'd dress up in a suit, we'd get in the car, and we would drive in New Jersey to big office buildings. They call Mac Cali buildings. We would go in there, go in the elevator, go floor by floor, office by office, open the door, knock on the door, gain business cards, and then go back into the office and actually call those businesses back up. There was no automation, there was no AI, it was a corded phone, you had to press the buttons, real old school. There wasn't a CRM or anything cool like that. So we actually did cold calls and door knocking in the same role. We would set up appointments for the sales guys there to go out in the appointments and ultimately generate net new business. So that was my first taste of sales. Obviously, I graduated, I wasn't living in the area anymore, so I needed to find a new sales gig. So I asked my dad, I go, Dad, what is the best sales job that I could do to gain experience, make money, and ultimately improve my salesmanship? So my dad told me to sell cars. I was not too excited or enthralled about that. Sales guys in the car dealerships are, sleazy, there's weekend hours, it's not, there's no base, right? It's commission only. So I was kind of hesitant, but gotta trust your dad. So I went out, got a sales job at a Mazda dealership in East Brunswick. I realized a few things. I realized the sleazy salesman persona is absolutely true, but it's not as true as you'd think, right? So it's really the older crowd, people who've been in the industry for a long period of time. Those are your sleazy sales guys. Me being by far the youngest guy there. I didn't obviously have to pick up on those tendencies. I kind of came in fresh. I understood that in the car sales game, every single person that walks into that dealership is called an up. Now, the way ups are assigned is whoever speaks with that person first. So once I understood that there's all this opportunity there and it's not claimed by anyone, regardless if I was there for a month or these guys were there for years, as long as I talked to them first, that was my lead. That was my up. And they hated me for this. The other car sales guys, they would sit in there, they would smoke cigarettes all day, and they kind of just were, old school. So they would wait for people to walk up to them and they'd, try to sell them a car. So what I did, I dressed nice, first and foremost. So I had French cuffs, I had a tie, I had a nice watch on, I had nice shoes, and I would sit in the parking lot all day long. I would stand outside. Every time someone would drive up, I'd walk up to them, shake their hand. Hey, how's it going? How can I help you? You're looking to buy a car, test drive, trade in, whatever that is. I was there first, right? So speed to lead, something that I preach nowadays. Didn't even realize it back in the day, but the more people I spoke with, the more opportunities I had to sell cars. So when I was selling cars, I'd sell 20 to 30 cars a month. Everyone else would sell like 8 to 12. So I was double 2xing their production purely from just hustling, right? You worked on weekends. I think I had off on Wednesday and Sunday. The hours were like 10 to 8 p.m. Didn't like it at all. Plus it was commission only, which was awesome because you had to sell cars to make a living and provide and eat and pay rent. I just didn't like it. The sales managers were still sleazy. They're trying to get every penny out of people. Biggest thing that I took away from it, I was selling a commodity. So a commodity is something that you can buy from anywhere, right? It's common. So you could buy a Mazda probably within a 15-mile radius from 4 to 5 different dealerships. So there was nothing truly making that person buy it from our dealership and from me, besides the experience that I gave that person, how I conducted myself, how they liked me. So that was a really big thing that I learned in sales, is people buy from people that they like and the experience that they're receiving in a sales environment. So those are the two biggest things, right? Is speaking with more people made you more money, and the way in which you treated prospects made them feel heard, and the experience that you gave them ultimately made them purchase from you. Also, my buddies were all moving to New York City. They all got jobs. They were in Hoboken, New Jersey by the city. I was not there yet. So I needed to continue to progress with my peers. So I needed to find a job in New York City. So I started applying for sales jobs in startup companies and software. So SaaS, software, startup jobs. The hard thing was that people really wanted people with no experience compared to people with experience, because they were worried that me being a car salesman, I would have pushy tendencies and the persona worked against me. One company called Crossover, they took a leap of faith on dear old Dylan here, and I got a job in Manhattan on 26th Street by the Whole Foods in Manhattan. It was a small startup company called Crossover. They were a disruptor in the space. They were trying to take down probably the industry standard called Huddle. They broke down game film on behalf of coaches. So the people that I was reaching out to, cold calling them, was coaches of basketball, volleyball, football, lacrosse, in the high school and collegiate space. Probably myself and about 18 other SDRs, all same age group, 21 to 26, all guys, sports guys. And essentially it was a boiler room. It was a room probably the same square footage as my apartment that I'm in right now. And we would call people all day long. So we had to call schools, administrators, secretaries to get to the, athletic director, to get to the coach. Really interesting thing about that job is that the SDRs, not only did we cold call, but we also ran the demo. So if I cold called a coach, he seemed interested. I'd be like, hey coach, are you by the computer by chance? And then they'd say yes or no. If they were, this is way before Zoom. There was no Zoom. There was no Google Meet. It was a thing called like screenshare.com. And we had to actually say out the URL. So it would be like, hey coach, can you type in screenshare.com/1YDSCXYZ, whatever the hell it was. They had to type it in manually, hit enter, then we ran a demo. So this guy would get a call out of the blue, he'd get a demo, and he'd get pitched and closed over the phone credit card. So very high volume, intense sales process. But it taught me a lot, because 99.9% of SDRs are just booking the meeting. I had to book the meeting and do the demo and transfer for pricing. So very, very blessed and grateful that I got all that experience from day one in the tech sales game. I got promoted to be an SDR manager. So I ran one of those pods and closed deals. So I had 4 to 6 SDRs underneath me. I was that person they were live transferring to close the deals. And then I moved up again to director of partnerships. So I'd reach out to collegiate associations and sell the head of the association, kind of like cutting the head off the snake. And then we'd sell all the schools inside of that, right? Like think like the SEC, right? We'd sell the SEC. And then we go individually saying, hey, we have a partnership with the SEC. Really helped for booking meetings and closing deals because you had that partnership. Worked there for about 2.5 years. Really loved that job. And unfortunately, in the startup game, there's a lot of acquiring, acquisitions, things like that. So they got acquired and they had a all hands meeting and everyone lost their job on the spot. Everybody. I had to pick myself back up, pout or anything like that. And I had to go back out into the interview game, into the market and find another job. The thing that hurt was that I was selling B2C. So we were selling to consumers at the end of the day, right? Coaches, athletic directors. The real money was in B2B at the time. So I would apply, like, hey, you have no B2B experience. You got no B2B experience, no B2B experience. I heard that all day long. One company called SciSense took a leap of faith on me again. And I started back down as a BDR. So I went from SDR to closer manager to director, back down the totem pole to being a BDR, right? A little bit of an ego gut punch, but it is what it is. So at this new job called SciSense, it was inbound. So they had like white papers, downloads, demo request forms. People would submit their information. We would call them, qualify them very heavily, book them on the calendar, your traditional SDR, BDR. The interesting thing about this job was that it was a quarterly commission. So we got paid pretty shitty base salary. It was like 30 grand, commuting into New York City, very expensive. Living near New York City, very expensive. So that base salary was not gonna cut it. So the thing that sucked was that I only got 4 commission checks a year, right? Every 3 months. The thing about their commissions was it was based on sales qualified leads. So a marketing qualified lead was the demo request or the information submitted. We would have to take it from MQL to SQL. So marketing qualified lead to sales qualified lead. Our job was to find MQLs, they become SQLs, book them, and then the closer would ultimately determine if that's an SQL or not. We only got credit for SQLs. So even though the meeting booked, it showed, but if it wasn't, hitting all the criterias, wasn't worth anything to my pocket. So kind of hard of a job. You book all these meetings. About 1 out of every 3 to 4 meetings would be an SQL. Our quota was 57 SQLs a quarter. So that was probably about almost 150 to 200 meetings a quarter. And then they had to all turn into it. And the fucked up thing was that if you didn't hit your number, you didn't get paid anywhere near the commissions that you were supposed to get paid. So it was very high stress, very high pressure to hit that 57. People would do long nights, long call days just to get to that number to actually make a decent living, right? If you hit all your 4 quarters in your commissions, I think you made like $70,000, which is pretty good at the time for an SDR. Worked there for about a year. I hit my quota 3 out of the 4 quarters. I was up for promotion. I did not get promoted. I got passed over from a manager perspective. They hired a female at the time. She ended up sleeping with one of the SDRs. I wasn't the best hire, but that's in the past now. Kind of funny looking back on it. From there, I left kind of the account executive role at a procurement software company. Worked there for about a year. They got acquired again, had to find another job. I worked for a company called Lua. We're account executive. Again, they got acquired and sold. And then I finally figured out to get promoted to the director of sales at a Series B startup company based out of San Francisco. And from there, that's where I also joined a program called Wake Up Wealthy. The reason why I joined Wake Up Wealthy was because I was jumping around in sales. COVID just hit. You're working from home. I worked from the office for about 8 to 10 years at that point. I commuted, I got dressed up, I gelled my hair. I like New York City. I like the commute. I like seeing people. I like the whole environment of New York City. It was hustle and bustle. That's where I met my fiance. So at a drop of a hat, boom, I'm shutting the office. Boom, I got a new job. I wasn't working out. I wasn't eating right. I was feeling lethargic. I wasn't hitting my fulfillment. Partly because the last few jobs in the last few years, I was just an account executive. I was just a closer. I wasn't really ascending. Yeah, I was making good money, perfect. But I feel like with my experience, my expertise, my knowledge of sales, that I was supposed to be higher up at that point in my life. So I knew that I wanted more, so I sought out information. A good buddy of mine from Rutgers named Bill, he joined the program Wake Up Wealthy. He was crushing it, super happy, fulfilled, making a lot of money, just living life to the fullest. I was not. I saw it in him. I reached out, I go, Bill, what's your secret, man? He goes, dude, Wake Up Wealthy, join it. Blindly joined it. It was a 90-day coaching program, $7,500, very large investment for me at the time. And what it went through is mind, body, spirit, and business. That's the 4 pillars. So to be good at business, you have to also be good in your mind, you have to be good spiritually, and your body's got to be in alignment. for your business to work. Now, this group was primarily brought up and composed of other business owners. I was just an employee at the time. I was a W-2 9-to-5er, a normie, if you would call me that. I realized that these guys, when they wake up, they have to piss, right? They're hungry. They have the same problems that I have. What is the true difference between myself and them? They're running a business, they're providing for themselves, they're making really good money. I have all the same skills, maybe some more than some. And I was like, something's got to give. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start my own business. I understand sales teams. I understand sales processes. I know how to sell. That's really the biggest tool as a business owner, is if you can sell what you have as a product, you'll be able to grow a business to a certain point with really not that much knowledge, right? I leveraged my sales acumen and my abilities. I started automated revenue. Now, automated revenue is still the same business that I have. I'm very lucky and grateful that this business model has worked out so well. I know that's like 95% of businesses fail. They do fail if you give up, is the way I'll say it. We've had very low, bad months. We had a negative $15,000 month where 2 clients, asked for refunds. I had to pull almost all of my personal savings to repay clients because I wasn't a good business owner. I knew how to sell, but I didn't know how to fulfill when I first started. That's a very painful lesson because as an enterprise salesperson, all I did was close the deal. Once it closed, I handed it off to customer success and they made the customer happy on what I sold. But as a business owner, you have to do every single thing. Very hard, an expensive lesson that I learned in the beginning was I sold it really well, but then I didn't fulfill it very well because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I never had experience there. So I burned some bridges. I learned my lesson. I paid everyone back. And I was like, all right, I need to figure out operations and fulfillment now. What I do again? I invested in knowledge. I invested in education and resources. I joined Client Ascension. Shout out, boys at Client Ascension. They truly helped operations in the back end. So I understood how to use Zapier, how to use Airtable, how to actually create a productized service that I could replicate over clients. And when I first started out, within 3 months of starting the side hustle, we were at $15K a month. We would do the work of 3 SDRs automated. It's a fancy way of saying a lead generation agency. We did email automation, outbound copywriting, and LinkedIn automation to book meetings. Me knowing the space, being an SDR, an SDR manager, and a director of sales, I understood how expensive hiring and finding SDRs was. Very expensive. So my product was $5,000 a month, and we would do the work in the volume of 3 SDRs, right? So there's no base salary, there's no W-2, there's no 401k, there's no benefits. You just pay me, literally just me, to do it. So essentially what I did was I built myself another job. So I had my 9-to-5 job, paying the bills, the side hustle. So essentially a director of sales and an SDR for like 3 different companies at $5K a month. So $15K a month, things were going well. And then they started to break. I didn't know what I was doing. I knew how to sell it. I did not know how to fulfill on it. That was something that was always done for me. In the 9-to-5 space, is I just focused on sales. We went from $15K a month to negative $15K the next month in revenue. So I had to pull out of my personal savings. Very expensive lesson, but so glad I learned it at that point in the business journey. It's because then I ripped the business back down and actually created a productized service. So I created automations, I hired VAs, I sought out knowledge and consulting to figure out the back end, because sales was never the problem. Right? Kept going on with that model. We got to $30,000, $40,000 a month and realized I just didn't really like it. I became, like I said, an employee. I was not a business owner. Very high stress, working very long hours. The kind of clients that I was working with, it was all over the board. I was copywriting for multiple industries, working with multiple different clients. I truly just kind of lost the joy in it. What I started to realize in those business calls and those Zoom calls was, since we were doing the work of 3 SDRs in the client's eyesight, they thought that we had SDRs on staff doing the work. And ultimately it was automation, myself, and some VAs. So they kept asking on the sales calls, hey, can we hire some of your SDRs? Do you train SDRs? The more I heard it, the more I listened to the market, and the more it created where the business is at now. So we were doing automated email and LinkedIn outbound as a service. And then after time, we transitioned to sales training and placement. Now, to go from those two very drastic different models, I needed help and expertise. So in Wake Up Wealthy, I met an individual by the name of Jake Thatcher, who is now one of my best friends, my business partner. He'll be at my wedding. Awesome dude. Hopefully, Jake, you're watching this. Love you, dude. I met Jake through a community and a cohort of like-minded people. That is the biggest thing that I can attribute to most of my success in my life is networking and being in close proximity to people who live and think and operate the same way that you do and you want to operate as. So me and Jake got paired up as battle buddies one week. We had a connecting call. We just shot the shit, say what's up, kept in touch. A couple months went down the road. He referred me a client. I referred him a client, and we just built a relationship. And I was like, hey man, like business is growing. I can't be doing all the sales. Maybe we need your sales coaching and consulting. We had a couple of salespeople we hired. Jake coached them. I ran the systems and the processes. Our salespeople got really good at cold calling, doing outbound, and creating a predictable sales process. Jake one day on a call was like, hey man, like I'm the SDR whisperer. And I was like, yo, that is a great term. It's genius. There it is, right there. SDR whisperer. So I was like, yo, we should make a course. I was building a community and a following on Twitter of salespeople. I was like, hey man, if we build a course and an info product, we could sell to help people become really good at sales and cold calling, and also sprinkle in the mindset stuff from Wake Up Wealthy that has helped you and I progress so quick in our life and be happy. So we created the program. I bullied Jake for months to build it, all market it, all do the sales and branding and all the back end stuff. So we created the SDR Whisperer, where we would actually take people who were new to sales, didn't know sales, train them on how to do cold outbound sales, true SDR work. And then that was it at the time. We just trained people how to get better at sales. Taking that and then my understanding of people's need and wants for trained salespeople, we created the placement offer, which we have today. And then once they graduate our program, we take businesses who are looking for trained salespeople, and then we place those people. So we created the entire ecosystem kind of on accident, but not on accident at all, because everything was intentional up until that point. I had to fail. I had to iterate. I had to, come to a breaking point at the current business juncture. I had to pay for knowledge in groups, put myself in proximity to people that could progress me personally and professionally. Everything has fallen into place for a correct reason. I absolutely love where the business model is at. We're creating content now. We help people genuinely get a skill, make money, and we help businesses genuinely grow. So we help both sides. It's super awesome. It's super fulfilling work. It's why I get up every day. It's why I'm on the computer. Right now, it's a Saturday at 4:21 p.m. I'm on my computer because I genuinely love what I do. What I do is a culmination of all my life experiences, going through sales, not hitting quota, getting fired, getting hired, changing industries, meeting people, having, important life events go along the mix. So that is kind of my story. The business now, we're at $100,000 a month pretty consistently. It can be 80, it can be 120. You have up and down months, it's sales, but I did have to quit my job with $100,000 salary base, which was awesome. And now it's pretty crazy to think that my yearly salary is made every month. Obviously, I don't take all that home. We have employees and softwares and other expenses. So if you're someone who truly doesn't know where you want to go in life, or you're confused, or you're hopping to jobs and careers, or you really know that you're destined for big things, definitely try out sales. It's going to help you not only have a skill that's going to translate across any job or industry, but it's also going to really truly help you in your personal relationships. Being able to be a communicator, understand people, sales can be an awesome pathway. Definitely give it a try. If you're looking for someone to train you in sales, I would be more than happy to train you individually, personally, pour my heart and soul into you. There's a lot of other guys in the space that are good as well. My biggest piece of advice is just go out there, get out of your comfort zone, try new things, meet new people. You will never know where it will take you. And if you want to work remotely, making anywhere from $3,000 to $8,000 per month, I made a video on YouTube showing you how to apply for jobs. It's a total secret strategy. It's inside of our paid program. You get it for free. I put it on YouTube. And in less than 30 days of watching this video, you'll be able to get a remote job inside sales. Somewhere on this screen right now is the link to that video, and it's also in the description. That's it for this one. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment. I do read them all. Peace.